As the saying goes, don't give me the bathwater, just give me the baby. If you don't want to see the making of the stool, you can skip to this part of the video, and that's where I mix up the finish and do the application. Hey everyone, welcome back to my shop. In my last video, I made this new shop stool. It's made out of white oak. I used a dovetail, or sliding dovetail technique for the joinery, and I finished it with Danish oil, which is basically just tung oil and polyurethane. And I'll leave a link to that up in that corner, or that corner, wherever it goes, if I can figure out how to do it. And I want to make another one because I want to try a soap finish. And I've always wanted to try it. Apparently it's got a very soft texture to it, so I'm going to give that a whirl. I've got more oak here to do it, and I'm going to use mortise and tenon joinery on this one. I need to cut some rabbets or rebates into the top, and I'm going to use this little jig here. I think it's called a kerfmaker. I bought this off Bangood a long time ago, and I'll be kind of detailed on how to use it because it's a bit of a reference for me to go back, because every time I go to use it, I have to learn how to use it again. So let's get started by getting these pieces squared up. Now that I've got my pieces to their approximate size, I need to cut a rabbet or a rebate into the bottom of the top. There's a variety of ways of doing that. I don't think any of them would be particularly wrong, but I'm going to use this jig because I'm going to build some cabinets soon to do a miter saw station behind me. So I think this might come in handy for that. So I'm going to be fairly detailed so I can refer back to this video later. There's a link below to this on Bangood. It's not an affiliate link, but it'll get you in the right spot. First thing we do is we get the kerf of our blade. You don't even need it turned on at this point. Just lock it in place. We set the kerf of the blade with the jig just on the end there by tightening the thumb screw. And then we set the width of our material. Now that the jig is set up with the kerf of the blade and the width of the material, we're just going to use it as a stop block as we pass our material through the table saw. That's nice. That one's a little loose. This side turned out pretty good, but this side over here, it's tighter up here at the front or the back than it is at this end. I could have used this jig better, where if I clamped a stop block on the fence, where the fence rides along the table saw where the tape measure is. If I'd put a block on there and then brought the fence up to it and then flipped it to get my measurements or where I ran it, I would have been able to run the top against the fence, which probably would have made it a bit more accurate. So live and learn. I used my mortiser, which is over there, to make the mortises in the top of the stool. I didn't film it because it's not a bad problem at the moment, but I can't even move around my shop. Some friends and I bought out a retiring cabinet maker of his hardwood supply, and it started out just buying about 45 sheets of plywood, but then we ended up making a deal for all of his hardwood, and this is just half of it. So it's not a bad problem to have, but right now I can't really move around my shop until we divvy it up, which should happen in the next few days. So. Before I take this outside and put the grinder to it, I'm going to give it some shape with a rasp because it's about 30 degrees outside right now, and I'd like to limit my time out there. There's a bit of conflicting information. Some people say do it 1-to-1 by volume, by weight, and there's also 4-to-1. So I'm going to do a small batch of each and see how it comes out. I've got my soap here, so I'm going to measure that out, and we'll get started. That's 1 cup. And I'm going to do another cup and see how much that weighs. Where did, oh, there it is. It's 3.2 ounces. And we'll do one more by volume, but 4-to-1. Ah! I got a little whisk here, and let's get this started here. I think I have something better. That looks pretty cool. All right, let's do the by weight. And we're going for 3.2 ounces. That's hardly anything. And the 4-to-1 by volume. Oh, not on the scale. Ah. How am I going to mix my epoxy? Oh. All over my workbench. Let me get a rag. Okay, with my rag, again with spilling it everywhere. So our 1-to-1 by volume, it looks like, I'm going to say whipped cream. And the 1-to-1 by weight, much denser and looks kind of like cottage cheese. And the 4-to-1, it's mostly water. Well, that's just water. Probably hot water too, yes. Ow. But we'll let it harden up overnight, and we'll see what happens. All right, time to apply some of this soap finish. For my first coat, I'm going to use the one that looks like it's cottage cheese, and which was mixed 1-to-1 by weight. I am going to use a Scotch-Brite pad for the application, and I'm just going to grab it. It's very, very dense. Ooh. And we'll see how that comes out. Oh, there's wax going everywhere, or wax. Soap going everywhere. It darkens the wood slightly, but I think that's because of the water that's in it. I think you're supposed to give it a bit of a buffing, but it does feel quite soft. No doubt it's the cleanest my hands have ever been. But I'll let it dry for a couple of hours and see how it looks, and then give it another coat. I'm going to give it its second coat. I'll use the other one, the one I did that's 1-to-1 by volume, and it's whipped up quite a bit. so it has a different consistency, not nearly as hard, waxy like the first one, but there's still a bit of a shine to it. It looks nice. But I think this one, I'm just going to reach in and grab it. And I'd seen where people said that you had to knock down the grain because it raised after they put this on there because of the water in it. But I didn't find that. Maybe because I used the application pad. It didn't seem to raise the grain much at all. But it does feel quite smooth. For the third coat, I'm going to use the one that I made that's 4:1 by volume. And I think this is kind of a mistake that's out there, because I think it should be 4:1 by weight. It does feel kind of watery. I'm going to use it though. But I think for the final coats, I'll go back to the 1:1 by volume. Again, I'm going to use my little white Scotch-Brite and just kind of rub it in with that. Now, it's always felt very soft, and I never felt like I needed to take sandpaper to it to knock down the grain or anything, so maybe it's because I'm using the Scotch-Brite. There's a lot more water in this one. I don't really like this one. Yeah, this is more sudsing up than anything else. I almost feel like I took a step backwards with that one. It almost felt like it sudsed up because just the volume was not right. So I think I'll do the last two coats with the 1:1 by volume, which is the kind of the whipped cream puffy one. But it does have a very nice texture to it. And I think I'll sneak down here one more time tonight, give it a coat, and then give the final coat in the morning. In the end, I put 5 coats of the soap finish on here. So the good and the bad. Let's start with the bad. It's not a hard-wearing finish. It's not going to protect the wood from water stains, or spills. You'd have to redo this probably every year. But on the positive side, it has a real nice texture to it. I really like that. I wasn't expecting that. I think part of it is that I normally don't do any grain filling before I put a finish on wood, and I think the soap does a really good job of that. But it feels very nice. I started this project thinking I just wanted to try it because I'd seen it on YouTube. And now I'd like to actually put it on something other than a stool. And the color-wise, here's a piece of the oak, and I'll do some side-by-sides. But it darkens it, but it gives it just a nice little sheen, which is just a satin, it looks quite good. I did some cherry and some walnut as well. Just sanded it down to 220, and then put a bit of tape across it, and you can really feel where it built up a finish. And it just kind of mutes the color a little bit. And again, just a slight satin look to it and a very nice feel. If you're looking to do something like this, I would recommend you do 2 mixtures, 1:1 by weight and 1:1 by volume of the soap. The 1:1 by weight works really well as the initial finish, and then do a 1:1 by volume, which is all the consecutive coats. The 4:1 by volume, that's like slime. It's too wet, and it seemed to turn into soap. So that's no good. I'll put a link to the soap in the description. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, put them down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.